I've been a fan of your book. So you can't see it that good on
Yeah,
here,
you
but I've
got
been.
it. Thank
Oh
you.
yes, oh yes. I knew right when it hit the market because I would
Right.
always be looking for new content, and then when yours came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a real person that wrote a book about payroll. I was like,
Yes.
yes. So it's so exciting, and I was just telling Walt, that the book is more than just implementing payroll. It's a roadmap to doing payroll properly, and it's consistent with Nick Day mentioned in there in your forward. So it was just exciting. It's just super exciting to read and super exciting to meet you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can get right into it. Tell us speaking of the book, what made you write it?
Yeah.
I had been writing articles about payroll and proper implementation and what not to do for a very long time. And early last year, I noticed that a lot of payroll projects or payroll go lives that went wrong hit the news. And I had never seen anything like it, at least not so many. And
Hmm.
so I started looking into it. And then I thought, okay, is it maybe a solution that is not quite right? And therefore we run in all these mistakes? Or is it maybe a vendor? Or what is going on here? And actually, what I discovered was that it was not one vendor, it was not one solution, it was not one country, it was everywhere.
Mm.
And when I reached out and started talking to some of these people, really what I discovered was that there was this disconnect between vendors and buyers. And it's easy to spot, right? Vendors do this every day. They sell payroll for a living. And then you as a buyer, you come to the market maybe every 10
Few
years.
years,
You're
yeah,
lucky,
if that. Yep.
right? Because
Mm.
you have a contract for 5 years, you want to extend it. And so every 10 years you come to market, which means that there are not a lot of people on the buyer side who have experience
Yep.
in selecting a new payroll. And the disconnect really was about they are not talking the same language. And so when a vendor, for instance, talks about a managed payroll service and the buyer currently has a managed payroll service, that immediately is put in their head as, okay, that's the same service as I had before.
Hmm.
But obviously, solutions have expanded,
Mhm.
services have changed. And so what
Yep.
you bought 10 years ago is not what you buy today.
Yep.
We look differently at data. So everything has changed. And therefore, if you do not from the start really dissect everything that's going on and have these concepts very clear in your mind, but also understand very well what's going on your side of the payroll process and what you potentially want to outsource and what you want to do yourself, if you don't have a clear idea in your head or actually on paper or
Mhm.
in a PowerPoint, then this goes wrong.
Yep.
And I think that is the main explanation behind all these newspaper articles. And that's a really long answer to your question. Why did I write a book? That's why, because
No,
I
that's the right
thought,
answer. Yep.
yeah, I thought if I can explain this step by step, then at least the buyer has a little bit of an advantage when they start to talk to the vendor, but they know
Yes.
what to ask for.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
You definitely give someone enough to be dangerous and to say the right things, to say the right words to the vendors. Because you're right. They do it every single day.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, we get to do it more than once.
Yeah,
Some folks have been in jobs, to your point, for a long time and they don't do it often.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, folks move around. In the last 15 years, 10 years, folks started to move around a little bit more. I've had the opportunity to implement more than one payroll system in my
mhm.
20 plus years, and it's something you just don't get to do a lot. So you're right, and this
Yeah.
gives everything, right? It's an amazing roadmap to use, to purchase, and yeah, I was just so excited about it.
A great resource.
Yep. Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Is there another book in the future?
There is Probably another book in the future. Actually, I'm trying to think through it because conference season is close to ending.
Yep.
I have one more keynote next week and then I'm done for the summer. And so that gives me a little bit of free time to think through the next book. I already have an idea. Actually, I have 2 ideas.
Ooh.
Now I need to decide which one comes first.
Okay.
So
Okay.
check back in
Good luck.
probably August or September, and then I'll know more.
All right. I'm
Also,
gonna hold you
looking
to
forward to
that.
that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, super excited about that. So
Exactly.
I know you shared this on the questionnaire that we sent out to you, but could you tell a little bit more of what your payroll origin story is?
Yeah, I got into payroll by accident, really. I worked.
Yep. Common story, very common story.
Yes. So I worked for an IT company and I did a lot with user directories. And then I was approached by this HR and payroll consulting firm. And they were starting to advise companies on employee and manager self-service and therefore needed to understand how these directory services worked. I think I probably worked on that for 2 months. And then the internet crisis hit back in 2001. And then everyone was going back to, okay, how can we run HR as effectively and efficiently as possible? The whole shared services concept came about. And pretty quickly, I had to pivot and started to advise companies around, okay, if you do shared services, if you do payroll and shared services, what does that mean? How can you measure it? From there, it exploded. And the company also started an outsourcing branch. And so ultimately, it was about, I would say, 75% payroll outsourcing and 25% consulting. And slowly but surely, I moved over to the multi-country payroll side.
Many of our stories are by accident, getting into payroll by accident. And it's like you said in the book, not a lot of people are studying to become payroll folks, right? Now, and I don't want to skip anything, but it's a kind of great segue. Do you feel like there is still a future for payroll? Do you feel like young folks could still get in and have a whole career in payroll, even though AI is now just getting to the game, impacting and what that will do?
Yeah. So the one thing that you both know about payroll, it has to be 100% accurate and it has to be 100% on time.
Yep.
Those are the only 2 things that matter. The problem currently with AI is that it might be on time, it isn't 100% accurate. And we're nowhere near the stage where you can give a payslip to a GPT and ask it what is wrong with this payslip. Also, because there's usually a lot of personal circumstances that go into answering the question why this specific payslip for this specific employee is wrong, and why it's not wrong for the person that's sitting next to that employee. And so I think that for the foreseeable future, we will see artificial intelligence in, I would say, the tier 1, where you can ask, okay, when is my payslip due? Or when is my payment due? Questions like that. Very broad, generic questions. But
better Google type of thing.
Exactly. And or I need to fill out a form. Can you give it to me? And then it presents the right form instead of you searching for the form. And I think
I like that.
Slowly but surely, we will train these GPTs and they will get smarter and understand it. But for the next 5 to 10 years, I don't see it. Also, because there's a liability in giving the wrong answer.
That one's big.
And I don't know if companies are willing to take that risk yet. I could see if you have a small company, you have 50 employees, they're probably on the same contract. And so answering questions is a lot easier than when you have a 50,000 employee company where you've had mergers and acquisitions and exceptions and legacy rules, and someone needs to interpret all of that and then come to the right answer. Very difficult to do. But who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong, and within 2 years we have all been replaced.
No,
I don't think so, but
I don't think so either. And we talk about AI a lot, and it's going to continue to be a conversation. And I think really that there will be a huge time where folks will still need the human liaison to be in between. Even if it's doing it automatically, we'll still go through this long period of adjustment where I still need Anita in the middle. I still need Walter to help me, because I'm not just going to interact with this machine for my pay. And so, to your point, I think it's going to be a while before we get replaced. So, and so a great question there. And how have you seen the global landscape change in the last few years, as it relates to payroll?
I would say the global landscape, especially if you look at multi-country payroll, it has changed fundamentally. Because if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would tell you, well, I know 2 providers who can help companies with global payroll. I worked for one, and there was one more, and that's it.
Yep, you're right.
And over time, what we've seen is that most of these global payroll projects have disappeared. And more companies started to understand that these global projects were maybe too big a scope to do confidently. And they've dialed it back to regional projects. And that meant that suddenly you had a whole host of other companies that were able to bid for these projects, because now the regional providers qualified for these RFPs as well. And I think it was also a little bit of risk management, that you don't just have the one provider for your global payroll, but you have global payroll, but you're using 3 providers. Every region has a different provider, and so you spread the risk a little bit. And then you have this data warehouse where you pull it all together. So the original reason to have one global payroll vendor, namely that you want to have insight in your data because of cloud and because of analytics, is not so pertinent anymore. You can tie them together. And then, of course, then the pandemic hit, and suddenly you had this host of, I would say, young companies entering the space that were offering solutions for the somewhat smaller companies that work internationally and that also can deliver EOR and contractor payments. So there's, from all sides, there are new entrants. And even this morning, I was talking to 2 lovely ladies who are in the midst of developing a payroll engine.
Oh, wow.
I have not seen that for a long time, that young companies are developing their own payroll. But suddenly this year, I know of at least, I think, 5 to 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And not all of them are in production yet. So there's still a couple of
course,
in stealth. But that is really promising, that finally, after all these years, a number of new engines are coming to market or will come to market within the next year or so.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's crazy because we're developing a solution, and when it's ready, I hope that you may give us your opinion, because we can. Oh, awesome!
I'd love to.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. And Walter always, in this journey, he would always say, "Oh, we're gonna do payroll. We're gonna do payroll," and I'm like, "No, there's so many. That's such a big undertaking. Like I didn't even so to know that there are folks endeavoring that is amazing. That gives me some hope. Not that I want to compete in that space. I think it's kind of full, but it's exciting to see maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe there is room for some new thought about how it should be approached, because we do get tired of the mainframe setup and we just have a pretty overlay on a very archaic machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it just needs to be updated. There needs to be something new that brings very fun, like simple solutions. If we could think it, this should be able to do it. So we need to close that gap. And
Yeah.
that's super exciting. If there are any you can share, please, we'd love to look into them as well. And that brings me to one of my side questions. On your HR Tech Radar site, how do you choose your companies that you share there?
Yeah. So when I was at my last company, I was responsible for strategy and partnerships. And that meant that because that was in my LinkedIn bio, all the time I would be approached by young companies who are really keen to partner with us. We offered services to enterprise, and they are typically not very keen on trying and testing these new solutions. But I became very interested in what I saw. And so when I left the company and started out on my own, one of the things that happened because of the pandemic, some of these companies started to reach out to me and said, there are no events, there are no conferences, we cannot get in touch with CHROs. What do we do now? How do we tell the world our story? And so I came up with this idea of using my network to offer them a platform or a window and help them get some attention. And that is when I set up the site. And my criteria for these companies to be listed was really, they needed to be founded after 2016, simply because 2016 was really the second wave of cloud technologies, and I wanted them to be built on a modern stack. And then the other criteria was that they needed to have at least 2 or 3 paying customers, just because I didn't want to run a list of everyone with a great idea that has not presented that yet to a client and has not tested that in the wild yet. So those were more or less the criteria. And
awesome.
It was really nice to work with these companies and bridge the gap during the pandemic, but also now that everything is mostly back to normal and a lot of the HR organizations are running startup events and competitions again, the need for the site has somewhat diminished. I'm still keeping it up, but I'm not keeping it as current probably as I would 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Do you keep your personal brand site current? Is that the one that you put the focus on?
Yeah, so I have HR Tech Radar, which showcases these new or young companies. And then I have I would say my speaker brand, which is AnitaLettink.com, simply because people see my name when I'm speaking. And so that they automatically find me through that site. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So now so you made that jump to work on your own. What was the catalyst for that? What made you say, "Oh, I'm going to go off and do this for myself"? It must have been scary, no?
Actually, it wasn't.
Ooh.
It was exciting. I had worked for other companies all of my career.
Yep.
And then when the company that I worked for got acquired by another company, that was not the first acquisition. We had done some mergers and acquisitions, and I had been with the company for 19 years. And I thought it was a good moment to go and see if I could make it on my own. I did not know that we would see a pandemic. So my last day of work was February, and I was supposed to go on sabbatical and travel. And then on March 15, all the borders closed. So here I was in my attic with nothing to do. But fortunately, like I mentioned, a couple of companies approached me because they had seen that I had left the company and that I was available. And things started to move from there. And I picked up a couple of speaking engagements, well, virtual engagements, obviously. And that sort of snowballed into physical, in-person speaking engagements when the pandemic was
Wow.
over. So I think that because I have been in this space so long, people know me, I have a large network. Then last year I wrote the book, and that opened up a whole new avenue of all kinds of
Absolutely.
payroll events.
Yep.
When you go out on your own, you really have to make sure, I think, that you stand for something and that people identify you with that something, whatever it is, and that they consider you an expert and that they reach out and are willing to pay for your services.
Yeah,
That's a big nugget, because I
Yep.
think that's important for people to realize that they are thinking about pursuing the avenue of launching into their own brand. That's an important nugget that you just spoke to there, that they make sure that they identify what they stand for and that they have expertise in that. So I think that's a huge nugget right there you just dropped.
Yeah, it is. It is. And a lot of us who have that spirit, we always trying. I've been trying to do something for years. And then finally it was like, well, I've been doing payroll for 20 years. Maybe we should leverage that.
Yeah.
So
And to be honest with you, when I left the company, I didn't think that payroll would be my continued career. Actually, I thought, well, I've done payroll for 20 years and now going to focus on future work, and I'm going to speak about the future work. And I did. But actually, I was sitting on all this knowledge that I was not using.
thank you.
And
Yep. Thank you.
Exactly. And in hindsight, that was a little bit of a mistake because people knew me. I was well known for
You had a brand.
payroll. I was not so well known for the future work. By now, I have combined these two, and people understand what I do, and they actually like that I bring this forward-looking approach also to payroll, so a little bit to the future of payroll and where are we headed and what do you see. But I think that when you go out on your own, it's best to capitalize on what people know you for and then slowly pivot to what you really want to do. At least if you want to earn money in the
exactly
in the meantime, right?
Exactly.
If you're independently wealthy, okay, do your thing.
Do your thing.
If you also want to earn some money to pay for stuff, then it's better to use the network that you have and the knowledge that you acquired and slowly pivot into a new direction.
Thank you for that. That is awesome. And now, before I forget, the book that because again, how it impacted me the same way it impacted Nick Day. Did you have that intention? Were you thinking, oh, this is going to be more than just an implementation kind of a story? No. Wow.
No.
Wow. Nah. Wow. That's amazing.
The book was really just a brain dump.
Yep.
I was thinking about everything that I had experienced selling global payroll or multi-country payroll from the other side, from the vendor side. Right. So what did we run into when we were selling? What had we wished that the customer would have brought to the table? What did we see that didn't go so well? Or when we presented something, where were we looking at blank faces because we had lost the clients talking about something that they did not understand? Yep. And also, as a seller, what did we wish that a customer would give to us? Because ultimately, you're in this together. It's a long relationship. It's 5 years, it's 10 years. And you could say, well, it's a vendor-buyer relationship, but ultimately, it's more of a partner relationship. You have to trust the other partner to deliver so that you can actually pay people correctly and on time. Yep. And that needs a little bit more than just, okay, I buy something from you and now you need to give it. Yep. It's not a product, right?
Yeah.
And
it's a relationship, and
It's
that's
a
gonna have its
relationship.
dynamic, and
Yeah.
it's like you said, you need to factor in, are you gonna grow, and will they still be the right partner
Yeah.
in your growth model?
Yeah.
If you divest, if people don't think about that, wait, if my company gets smaller, how does that happen, right? And will they be the right partner then? And what will they do for us as a courtesy if that happens? You organized it amazingly, and it gives everyone as a buyer what they need to be armed, because this is everything that we in the industry get frustrated with, and it's here. Oh gosh, my favorite quote: payroll starts the moment employee data is entered or changed in the HR solution.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Sometimes our partners in HR don't realize that. It's, oh, well, payroll, and it's like, wait a minute now. It just articulates it so elegantly,
Yes.
and we have to see it as one thing. And I think we even say, look, if you're going to get a new HCM, get that payroll engine too, because why bifurcate it?
Yeah.
Why break it? You're creating a problem where you should not have one. Thank you so much for this. And then I wanted to ask your permission, I really want to go into depth on the show. Do you mind if we do a show on this?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because I do want to share it with folks, and I think people, if you're seeing the title, how to buy your next payroll, select your next payroll, they might discount the fact that this teaches you how to do payroll well. So, that I
should
need
give
to
it a
share
new
that.
title.
You
How to
could.
select your next payroll and do payroll well.
You could. You absolutely could.
Yeah.
You absolutely could. When you were implementing payroll, what were your biggest challenges?
Probably helping clients to get the data right. Especially when you move from one payroll system to another.
Yep.
The client has this system and they've been using it for 10 years?
Yes.
And then you start asking, okay, give me all the data of your employees. And you know that they have, for instance, 500 employees, and then suddenly they give you this data dump of 750. And now you're looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that's 250 too many. And we've been in a situation where there were actually 750 employees that they were paying. They just didn't realize it. But we've also been in a situation where it was 500 employees and then 250 the others were there because they were never properly exited in the system.
Yep.
So they were not archived, but in the engine, they still ran all kinds of strange things. I think getting the data right for your next payroll engine is one of the hardest things to do.
Yep.
But if you get it right, you have the opportunity to have a more or less flawless go live.
That's right.
And that is important.
Yes.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Amazing. Walt, what else? You got anything for Anita?
No, I'm honored that she made the time for us, and that she came in and explained and shared her knowledge with us. And hopefully this won't be the last time that we have her on, but we're huge fans of yours, Anita. Thank you for all you're doing in the payroll industry. We've learned so much from you, Brian. And I just to let you know, Brian talks about your book all the time.
He does.
Yes.
Oh,
all the
thank
time.
you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I guess what's next for Anita? You said maybe 2 books coming in the future. What else?
Well, let's keep it at 1. So I have 2 topics to choose from.
Okay.
And I'm going to write
Definitely
one book.
Okay.
Yeah, one book.
For now.
So let's keep it at 1.
Okay.
And then in September, conference season starts back up. And so there will be a number of speaking engagements lined up. All of them in Europe, by the way.
Are you going to do any future about coming to the US? And 2, are your engagements listed on your site?
So I might come to the US, but it's not been confirmed yet.
Okay.
And yes, I always list future public keynotes
Okay.
on the side, because I also do a lot of in-company speaking,
I'm
and then
sure.
obviously
Yeah. Private.
others are not invited.
Right.
But the ones that you can visit, I always list on the site. But which reminds me that I have to start listing the ones for September and October.
See, and
Yes.
please, if
Good
you
point.
come to the U.S., we are going to be there. Please let us know. List it. We will follow, and we also want to go to your side. Do you go to that Unleashed every
I
year?
go to Unleash. Yes.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
the one European, or it's more of a global conference. A lot of people fly in from all over the world. So that is why it's always interesting. And they also pay a lot of attention to young startup
Wow.
companies. They have a startup competition. I was
Oh, wow.
a judge on the startup competition last year and helped narrow down the list of contenders
That's
for
awesome.
the in-person event. So that is it's a really nice event, and I enjoy going there. I have been going there every year since I don't know when.
We're excited. Again, it's been such an honor to have you on. Thank you so much. If there's anything we could ever do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We wish you the best and can't wait to meet you.
Same here. Thank you, Brian and Walt.
All right, we'll let you go. We'll give you back some time today. And thank you so much again, Nita. It's truly an honor. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.